Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my last review of Bates Motel for the year. I mean, unless there's any like crazy revelations and news about it, and I feel so inspired as to vlog about those updates until the second season. But welcome to my review of the grand finale of season 1, Midnight. Brace yourselves and beware that there are many spoilers ahead, and I'm pretty much gonna dive right into the thick of things in just a moment. I'm gonna say for those of you who watch my other vlog reviews, such as my reviews of The Walking Dead or Dexter or Hannibal or anything of that nature, I would highly encourage you to check this show out. It is absorbing as all get out. I was freaking out beyond belief throughout this entire episode. Like, I was so tempted to film myself just watching this episode because, you know, I'm the kind of person who I'll start like making faces without realizing it, and I kept finding myself making the most ridiculous faces. Like, I could just feel my face contorted into these expressions of terror and ridiculousness. Hold on, my cat is calling me. I know, I suck. I know. Yeah, it's true. My cats kind of have me whipped. Anyways, so I was just... But I just feel so, like, I feel like it's so conceited to just, like, focus on filming myself as I'm watching a show. I mean, it's not like I would change, you know, how I'm reacting to it, but, you know, in theory, it's just kind of like, do I really want to go there? Do I think that it's that important to people for them to be able to see my faces as I watch shows? I don't know. But I was feeling my inner Norma as I was watching this, just with freaking out at absolutely everything. And so this is a fantastic episode, easily my favorite of the season. It is psychologically intense, and it just brings everything that has happened throughout this entire show together, and really it harkens so strongly to Hitchcock's Psycho as well, okay? So be sure to leave all your thoughts as we go. If you haven't watched this show yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Also, in honor of Norman and Emma's prom, I wore my tuxedo socks. I just wanted to show you guys because I get so excited whenever I'm wearing my knee highs. Gets me in the zone. Okay, so now I'm going to officially begin my review and everything that's just been swimming around in my head as we go. So, let's bust into this. The ending, I totally called it. I knew it. As soon as the camera like zoomed in on his face and he had like that look of pure rage, and I love that they personified, you know, the voice of Mother in his head. You know, that really harkens forward to Psycho in the future, okay? As soon as she was like, you know what you have to do, we all knew exactly what was going on, and then, you know, it cuts to him running at breakneck speed through the rain in just desperation. Looks like, you know, he doesn't know what's going on. And so for the briefest moment we think, you know, maybe he just got out of there before the great seduction was complete. But yet we all knew that deep down, especially when as Norma embraces him when he gets back to the house, you know, and she's like, now we can all be happy, finally everything is good. We know that it's the exact opposite simply because she says that, and that's just pretty much the kind of show that we're dealing with, okay? So, and it's just so fascinating to me, especially with everything that we discovered about Norma's past, you know, and the scar that we saw like back in the very first episode or two. You know, as she's like in her bedroom getting ready for her evening, whatever, her date with Shelby, and we see her as she's like putting lotion on her legs, and we see that scar, and we know that there's a story. In this episode, we constantly see her fighting against the truth of her own life, you know, at every angle. When Emma is is showing Norma her new dress for the dance. And, you know, she's holding it up to her and, you know, is kind of trying things on, and she catches a glimpse of that scar. And Emma immediately knows that there is a wretched story behind it. It's, you know, she's not buying the whole hot chocolate theory. That's not how hot chocolate works, I'm afraid. Nice try, Norma. But, yeah, so we constantly see her struggling against her past and everything. And, you know, when Norman comes back to her at the very end and she's so happy that things went terribly at the dance, you know? Did you notice how she was just like, oh, it's okay, it's great, it's perfect, and that's how she reacts whenever something goes wrong with Norman's life with other girls, you know, because she is so controlling over his relationships, and she doesn't want to come across as domineering, and so she wants to see those things go wrong so that she can be in the position to receive Norman and tell him that everything is going to be okay and great and it's fine and perfect, and this is the way things are supposed to be. Everything is supposed to go wrong, because then you come running back to Mama and it's all good. And you know, I think that Emma to Norma embodies the innocence that she lost, you know, after we learn that story about the sexual abuse that she sustained from her brother, and how she felt completely paralyzed to come to her father, who was violent, and her mother was absolutely gone. You know, it's like when the psychiatrist is asking, like, did you ever think that parenting was going to be like this? She had no idea what parenting was. She didn't have a mom. She didn't have a dad who she could trust to protect her. And all she had was a brother who took advantage of her. It's just, everything comes together in that moment. It came together for me like nobody's business. And so I think that the reason why, you know, we know why Norma is so put off by Bradley, you know, the little freaking sex kitten, because she sees in her a threat, and perhaps she even sees in her the version of herself that maybe in some way wanted to reciprocate what was going on with her brother. I mean, I don't profess to know anything about the psychology in those kinds of situations by any means, and you know, but just for the purpose of the story and looking at that, you know, maybe she sees in her that sexual deviance and desire and things that she feels guilt over, no matter how much she tries to speak that away, whereas Emma is that innocent side of her that Norma wants to protect, and at the same time doesn't perceive as a threat to Norman, which is why she wants to keep her close. Because she knows that with Emma being first and foremost in the picture as opposed to Bradley, everything's going to be fine because Norman is not going to be attracted to her, nothing's going to happen. She feels control. And so Emma gives her that sense of control as well as innocence. So it's really interesting, you know, how she doesn't ask, you know, oh, what happened with Emma? Why was she upset? She knew. She knows that Norman doesn't have feelings for her, and so she felt safe about the whole thing. And yeah, it's just, there's so much swimming in my mind. It's ridiculous. But ultimately, we really see where Norma's intense battle for control comes from. And it is from that loss of control and that inability to gain control that she experienced as a young teenager that really drives her now in everything she does. I think it was so good that they had, you know, that the meeting with the psychiatrist and Norma, and we see her inventing this grand fluffy fantasy of a childhood. You know, my mother worked at a bakery and she smelled of cookies, and my father was a man who smiled constantly and just made everything seem okay. And God, my heart broke for her unlike ever before. Like, I seriously fall in love with Norma more and more just every time I see an episode, because she is so cray nuts, and I have no shame in using that phrase. She is just so cray nuts that you can't help but be in love with her because she is hysterical to watch, and it is just, it's a freaking circus sideshow, okay? But there's also a side of her that is so tragic on like this freaking Shakespearean level. It's absolutely insane, and I was honestly crying during that scene when she was telling Norman about everything that happened, and of course right before he goes to the dance, so he's got all these mommy issues fresh in his mind as soon as Emma shows up on his doorstep, and it's just, oh my god, just the hurt in that family is insane, and we all know where it's headed, and that's the worst part, is that every time there is this sense of peace and happiness, there is an atrocity and a horror behind it all. And before I go back to talking about that final scene and everything that transpires at the very end, I also have to say that I was really glad that the writers took some more time to focus on Norma and Dylan and kind of, you know, interweaving the plot line between Norma and Abernathy and Romero and just, you know, all that insanity that's going on there. They kind of used that situation to bring Dylan back into the picture because, you know, Norma feels like because she can't trust Romero to settle things, it doesn't make sense to her. She wants control. This much we know. You know, she comes to Dylan, he's like, here's some toast. By the way, so how about in exchange for this delicious meal I made for you? You hooked me up with some firearms. It's like, that is the thinking of Norma, and it is why I love her so much, because she is ridiculous on every level. And Dylan, very rightfully so, he's like, in which universe do you think this is a good idea? Really now? And I was just dying the whole scene when he's like teaching her, you know, he relents and he decides to teach her to defend herself, and she's just like going ham. It's like, oh, target, boom, there we go, perfect. And he's like, it was so interesting because when Dylan brings her the gun, you know, I think that, and she says thank you, I think that's the first time that she has said thank you to him for anything. She didn't even say thank you after he freaking almost sacrificed his life to protect her and Norman from Shelby. You know, she hugged him and everything, and there was that desperation that, oh, I'm so glad you're alive, and that was very tangible. She never said thank you. And especially not after, you know, they kind of handed the whole thing over to Romero, and he's like, I'll make it disappear. And then everyone's like, oh, we're so happy. And he's just like, you know, sitting over there with a bullet through, like, gone through his freaking arm, and he's just like, really? Cool. You know, it's like finally there's a sense of gratitude, and I think that that stems from Norma's painful past and having felt all that time that she couldn't protect herself, you know. Seeing someone intervening in her life and giving her the opportunity to do that is absolutely huge. And it's not to say that she does a particularly responsible job of dealing with that, but I think that scene was just so interesting for the two of them. And you know how Norma freaks out when Dylan calls her mom. You know, after she nails the target, she actually listens to him, she goes for it, she does well. Bada bing, bada boom, and she's just so overwhelmed with the fact that she, you know, he calls her mom in that split second, and then he goes back to calling her Norma, you know. She calls him out and he's just like, shit. And yeah, but that was so fascinating, and I just really love their relationship, and I think that it's so interesting and important to me, and I think that there's going to be a lot of interesting developments in that in the future. So, what else? Oh, freaking Romero, you know, his relationship with Norma just cracks me up. It's like, your complete and utter disdain for this woman is so fierce, but he takes it all in stride, you know. She shows up at his office and she's like, Ma! And the secretary's just like, so what's your name, sweetie? And Norma's just like, excuse me? Like, you don't see it written on my face. It is just, I die. And then Romero comes out and he's like, okay, you've had your moment, let's talk. And yeah, you know, he's a sort of morally ambiguous fellow, I have to say. Like, in the way, you know, it's the whole I'll handle it, it's whatevs, and I can see why Norma's really irked by that, you know, by not knowing how it's going to be dealt with, and etc., etc. And so that whole scene with Abernathy, you know, he's just kind of playing it cool and calculating, and then at the last minute just shoots him up, tosses the money aside, and just walks away. And I love it. It's just like, you can go home now, Norma. It's like he has just such a weird ability to tolerate her. And I mean, it feels like he despises her, but yet it's almost like, I don't know, they have this sort of weird almost alliance, and that doesn't make any sense, but I love it. It is just, it cracks me up. So I don't know, you know, it's that whole kind of not in my town thing. Like, I was digging it. I think that was kind of a cool moment for him. You know, it's like you're dealing with the frickin' mayor of Gotham City, okay? You know, he's got some pretty rad prerequisites under his belt, so I wouldn't mess with that guy. Nor would I want to mess with him on the account of his eyelashes. Those are just magical to me. So, what else? Okay. So I need to get this out there. I need to just get this off my soul before it consumes it. But basically, Bradley, okay? Let's talk about Bradley. Or can we not? Or can we just kill her and move on? Because I am so in all ways done with her. I just, every time she is, I don't know. I can't. I just can't. Like, when, you know, she rings the doorbell and shows up, hi, is still in there? And it's just like, hi, I'm going to stab out your eyes with a spork. It's like, I'm like rooting for Norman to just kill her. Just get it over with, please, because eventually you're gonna go crazy because she's gonna date Dylan and it's gonna be stupid, and then they're both gonna die, and then everyone's gonna die, and it's pretty much all Bradley's fault, okay? But I just don't understand how she still has a boyfriend. Like, what? And it's just so bizarre, and we see Norman on the brink of collapse over it all. And well, it's not just the brink. Little does he know that he falls off the edge, but he's, you know, he doesn't remember that part of the equation. He just remembers scrambling back up the cliff, going to Mom, and that's about the end of that for him. But yeah, so I was really hoping that she was going to be out of the picture by the end. I was not into, well, at the beginning, I don't know. I mean, I sensed that something very drastic was going to happen with Miss Watson. I didn't know if there was going to be, like, a sexual relationship underway. I didn't know, but I mean, that tension was very tangible, let me just tell ya. And so, God, it just infuriated me when Bradley shows up and she's just like, ha ha, and, you know, talking with Dylan, and he's trying to play cool, but he's kind of attracted to her, which is kind of stupid, but it's Bradley, and just everyone likes her for no apparent reason. And, you know, we see Norman right around the corner, and he's got that, like, serial killer loading face. So we know that something's gonna go down, and he goes to the dance, and oh, Norman, just, like, I feel so terrible for Emma with him, because, like, he's constantly making the Google eyes at Bradley, or like the I'm gonna kill you because you give me feelings, and you know, it's just that constant, like, he could not remove himself from her. And as he's like so violently trying to pass her off to Dylan, like, just go for it, do whatever, it doesn't matter, you know, he's just reiterating his feeling of betrayal, and the, you know, the sense that their sexual connection never mattered, and everything. And it just sucks. You know, I think back to like the sex talk that Norma had with Norman, and how, you know, I remember distinctly that she was saying how, you know, sex, it messes with the chemicals in a girl's body and mind, and there's the bonding and blah blah blah. And it's just, and I think that it's really troubling to Norman, you know, having heard that from his mom, that there doesn't seem to be that sense of bonding between them. She's just she just sort of used him and abused him and left. And I think, and he doesn't really know how to reconcile that in his head. It's like he feels that he is the one who is bonded, and so maybe in some way it makes him feel effeminate, and it enrages him. And I mean, there's just so many psychological complexities to this episode that I could go on for days about. But yeah, I just don't understand. But we knew that something was gonna hit the fan this episode, you know, with his dream about drowning her. And let's talk about what Miss Watson epitomizes for Norman, you know, and the reason why he isn't tapping into, you know, this connection with Emma, who is just such a beautiful and genuine soul and just wants to be with him and let him be him. And it's just so sad that they can't seem to meet each other halfway. But the thing is, in Norman's mind, she is almost too available to him. It's like what she says when she, you know, runs off from the dance and pieces out, you know, because she knows that she is not the one, and that this dance isn't changing Norman's perception of her. And she's like, it's like, you have these feelings for me, but you're too stupid to realize it. And I think that he realizes that he could, it's just that she is too there. And all of the significant female relationships that he's really had in his life so far, like, I mean, his mother, like, there's this connection and this almost attraction to her because she is unavailable. She is inappropriate, you know, deemed inappropriate to him sexually and romantically by society and by, well, you know, biologically, morally. There's just, you know, there's quite a few roadblocks between Norman and Norma in terms of just how far the relationship can go. And yet she is the one who has poured everything into him, and there is this sort of attraction to her in that he can't fully fulfill that. Does that make any sense? You know, it's like, you want what you can't have, basically. It's just sort of the bottom line of that. And then Bradley is also sexually unavailable to him, well, more or less, but I mean, in that she has a boyfriend figure person. He just kind of seems like a placeholder, if anything. He's sort of there to just put on her arm and keep around for looks, and I don't know. It just really doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, and it's just this whole sense that she's on another league, you know, she's in with the popular crowd, and Norman's kind of on the social periphery, and so she's unavailable, but then desirable at the same time. And in a sense, she almost is available in that she's his age, they're not related, and other factors. And then Miss Watson is kind of like a combination of all the women in Norman's life. Of Emma, and of Bradley, and of Norma as well. Because she is unavailable to him in that she is an older woman, she's a teacher, and, you know, all those things going on. And she's also as genuine and authentic and emotionally encouraging as Emma. And yet there's the unavailability factor that really heightens the tension for Norman. And so when she picks him up and invites him home, and she's in this skimpy little red dress, and it's all sexual, and it's like, you know, we see Norman's face, and then we just see, like, cut the scene, and it's just boobs. And it goes back, and so there is this enormous tension, and like similar to almost the kind of tension that there is between him and his mother, and it's just, it's all messed up. I was freaking out that entire scene. It was just balls nuts, and you know, so she's like, well, you know, it's like they almost kiss, it seems like, and then she's like, well, I'm gonna go change, and then she doesn't shut the door. I have to wonder, you know, if, well, I mean, I think they kind of make it clear that this is actually happening, that, like, you know, she leaves the door open and she starts changing, and it's like, ooh, but, you know, you almost have to wonder if Norman sees that in his head, like, if just the idea of her changing, like, makes him start to imagine, you know, and just kind of start the seduction himself. But, I mean, I think we can assume that she left the door open, which was very interesting choice on her part, and surely she can't have been naive about that. But yeah, and then they had that whole emotional connection at the school, like she's in some relationship that's toxic, and you know, Norman's in a relationship that's toxic, like with his mother and with Bradley, and so they kind of bond together, and so it's like things could go one violent way or the other. And then we see Mother come into play. You know, we see him talking with his mother in his head, and she's telling him, you know, it's so interesting because her hair is all pulled back and she looks very pious and righteous. Like she embodies his conscience all of a sudden. She's like, she's not a nice girl. And it's kind of, there's so many parallels, you know, between the scene that he has with Miss Watson and with Bradley after she rejects him, and he's walking off, and you know, and he's saying his mother's words aloud as though they're his own. And now this time we're seeing into his head where his mother is speaking into him and informing him of what he should do. And he feels so exposed because suddenly he sees this Bradleyness in Miss Watson, this woman who's genuinely trying to nurture him and encourage him. And I feel so badly about how things turned out, and yet this has been the trajectory of things, and we can't say that this really wasn't coming in a lot of ways. Like, we think back to earlier episodes when he fantasizes her about, like, being all tied up, and it's all S&M kinkiness, and just, you know, there's always been this weird sense about her and this fixation that he has. He knows that he can't have her, but he perceives through the voice of his mother that she is trying to, you know, entice him into a relationship that will never be able to stand or be consummated in a way that isn't accompanied by shame and confusion. And he is just so maddeningly, overwhelmingly frustrated, and he starts to feel himself rejected already. And so things go as they do, and just when we think that everything's gonna be all delightful and fine, we know as soon as the camera starts panning across the bathroom floor and we see the blood, and it's just like, I was screaming at that point. I was just like, I called it. I was really proud of myself, because I was like, no, there's no way it ends like this. There's no way. So, if there's anything else that I missed, please let me know in the comments. Let us talk about this madness. I just love it. We got to see, you know, a little bit of everything and everyone in this episode, and just a lot of fascinating intrigue, and it was just so good. I was freaking out. There's so much to explore, so much psychological richness, and I love it. I love that I've gotten into this show. It is so freaking phenomenal. I really hope that Vera Farmiga, who plays Norma, she needs to freaking get nominated for something, get an Emmy up in here, okay? Also for like Jennifer Carpenter from Dexter, there are just some powerful women out there, you know, rocking the acting world and working in the positions of these emotionally compromised and intense women, and it's just amazing. And Freddie could not be more perfect as Norman. It just works so well, okay? So fill in the blanks that I may have left and just let me know all of your thoughts, and we will pick up on this later. So for those of you who started watching my videos, thanks to my Bates Motel reviews, I thank you so much, and it is such a pleasure to do these reviews, and I'll be back with Hannibal this Thursday, and I'll actually get to watch that live, so I'm excited. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk below. I'll let you know if I find out any other exciting news for Bates Motel. Follow me on Twitter because I talk about everything on there, and Tumblr and Facebook are other great ways to reach me and keep in touch with what I'm doing. So, alright ladies and gents, so I guess we'll check back into Bates Motel next year and see how things are hanging. We are starting to descend into the madness. This is the Twilight Zone, okay? So, join me as we go forward, and thank you for being beautiful and delightful on pretty much every level. Alright, I'll be back before you know it, and thank you for watching.